Before we begin, we need to make a few things clear about the Vietnam War. First things first, the Vietnam War was never really declared a war, but for simplicity's sake, we'll just call it a war. Second of all, there was really no clearly articulated reason for the war. It could have been power, for alliances, and to stop communism, but the US government never really said that. Third, although the war started in 1955, the actual prominent protests started in 1965, and the media didn't really help the US government either when it talked about the casualties we suffered. And even so, the protesters had really good reasons to protest. One being forced drafting, two being no reason for warfare, and three being the amount of casualties we suffered. So the first reason why the protesters should have been able to protest without being judged was because of forced drafting, where the men were basically forced to draft into the army. And according to the Homefront Americans Protest the War book, some of the protesters just went onto the Pentagon building steps and just burned their draft cards, which was pretty much categorizing them into criminals, as if you were caught doing that, you could be sent to jail. But even so, many men managed to find other ways, such as disguises, taking illegal drugs and jabbing themselves with needles to look like drug addicts, and injuring themselves on purpose so that they could just stay away from being in the army. The second reason for why the protesters had good reason to protest was that there was no clear reason for the war. So that was sort of like fighting for something when you don't even know what that something is, in which it caused a lot of confusion to people, and it sort of made people get angry at President Lyndon B. Johnson for the reason that he pretty much threw them into battle without even knowing what they were going up against and without knowing why. The third reason was because of how many casualties we suffered. Shown here is a wounded American soldier being treated at a helicopter. And according to Wikipedia, the US suffered 211,454 casualties, and with a mixture of no good reason for warfare, that got the citizens pretty mad, and they had some pretty big protests too. Shown here is a march for protesters to protest, and you can see that a lot of them are carrying signs. People of different races, people of different genders, everybody's pretty much there to try and stop the warfare. So yeah, they're like walking right in front of the Lincoln Memorial, and there's more people, a lot more people. And as you can see how many people are walking, it just sort of shows just how many people hated the war. Just think about it for a second. It's like sending people to their deaths without them even knowing why, and without you even knowing why. So that got the citizens pretty mad, very mad actually, as shown by that sign just now. And the citizens pretty much considered the Vietnam War as just Lyndon B. Johnson's war, as it was sort of him only who declared it, not even the citizens. So that was something that people got mad at. And as you can see, there are just a lot of people there, so you could see how many people just joined forces to show other people that they don't approve of this at all. So it's just sort of something to look at. And it also gives you idea of just how many people don't like it. And so, all in all, the protesters really had good reasons to protest. One is being forced drafting, two is being no good reason for warfare, and three is the amount of casualties we suffered. And President Richard Nixon actually did announce that he was going to stop the war, as shown by this speech that he is going to make.
I have asked for this radio and television time tonight for the purpose of announcing that we today have concluded an agreement to end the war and bring peace with honor in Vietnam and in Southeast Asia. The following statement is being issued at this moment in Washington and Hanoi. At 12:30 Paris time today, January 23, 1973, the agreement on ending the war and restoring peace in Vietnam was initialed by Dr. Henry Kissinger on behalf of the United States and Special Advisor Lee Duc-Tho on behalf of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. The agreement will be formally signed by the parties participating in the Paris Conference on Vietnam on January 27, 1973 at the International Conference Center in Paris. The ceasefire will take effect at 2400 Greenwich Mean Time, January 27, 1973. The United States and the Democratic Republic of Vietnam express the hope that this agreement will ensure stable peace in Vietnam and contribute to the preservation of lasting peace in Indochina and Southeast Asia. That concludes the formal statement. Throughout the years of negotiations, we have insisted on peace with honor. In my addresses to the nation from this room of January 25th and May 8th, I set forth the goals that we considered essential for peace with honor. In the settlement that has now been agreed to, all the conditions that I laid down then have been met. A ceasefire, internationally supervised, will begin at 7 p.m. this Saturday, January 27, Washington time. Within 60 days from this Saturday, all Americans held prisoners of war throughout Indochina will be released. There will be the fullest possible accounting for all of those who are missing in action. During the same 60-day period, all American forces will be withdrawn from South Vietnam. The people of South Vietnam have been guaranteed the right to determine their own future without outside interference. By joint agreement, the full text of the agreement and the protocols to carry it out will be issued tomorrow. Throughout these negotiations, we have been in the closest consultation with President Thieu and other representatives of the Republic of Vietnam. This settlement meets the goals and has the full support of President Thieu and the government of the Republic of Vietnam, as well as that of our other allies who are affected. The United States will continue to recognize the government of the Republic of Vietnam as the sole legitimate government of South Vietnam. We shall continue to aid South Vietnam within the terms of the agreement, and we shall support efforts by the people of South Vietnam to settle their problems peacefully among themselves. We must recognize that ending the war is only the first step toward building the peace. All parties must now see to it that this is a peace that lasts and also a peace that heals. And a peace that not only ends the war in Southeast Asia, but contributes to the prospects of peace in the whole world.
And hopefully that peace will still stay, and hopefully there won't be any more war, and hopefully those bullets that we use to kill other people will be switched with just nothing. No bullets, no guns, no violence at all. So credit goes to Wikipedia for casualty numbers and pictures, MC American President for the video, Huffington Post pictures, Vietnam War era pictures, Michigan in the World pictures, Clip Art Fest pictures, Rehab Center Hotline pictures, Lifehacker.com pictures, and all the others that I used. Before we begin, we need to make a few things clear about the Vietnam War. First things first, there